I want you to keep track of something. How long can you actually go without yawning yourself? I mean, just hearing me say the word or seeing it right in front of you might already be planting that seed. Keep that in mind as we go, because the reason behind it is actually a major clue.
Now, the actual physical anatomy of a yawn is pretty beautifully orchestrated. In just 4 to 7 seconds, your jaw opens wide, you pull in a deep breath, and boom, a quick exhale follows. But here's the truly mind-blowing part. This is an involuntary reflex that our stickman, and, well, literally all of you, have been doing since your 11th week in the womb. It's a fundamental human action that starts before we're even born and sticks with us for a lifetime.
So, let's look at our next clue and see how this builds. Science generally puts yawns into 2 camps. First up, we've got spontaneous yawning. This is when our stickman lets out a yawn completely out of nowhere with absolutely no obvious trigger around him. Then, we have contagious yawning. That happens when he simply notices someone else doing it, hears a yawn, or even just thinks about it. 2 totally different triggers, but the exact same physiological response.
Let's start with the morning routine. Our stickman wakes up, stretches, and lets out this massive yawn. But why? Well, researchers note that as he does this, he's actually coating his lungs with something called a surfactant. Think of it like a biological wetting agent that coats the tiny air sacs in his lungs, the alveoli, helping keep them open and lubricated. So that big morning stretch and yawn combo isn't just him being tired. It's a mechanical reboot to stretch out his lung tissue and make him feel more awake for the day ahead.
Fast forward a few hours, and our stickman is sitting at his desk. He's looking a little bored, and yep, he yawns again. Now, most people would say, oh, he just needs a nap. But this brilliantly illustrates one of the top medical theories we have today, the brain cooling theory. Researchers now actually believe that our stickman isn't just bored. His brain is quite literally heating up from his tasks, and his body is kicking on a biological fan to cool it down.
So how does this work mechanically? Well, when our stickman yawns to cool his brain, his skull and jaw muscles stretch super wide open. That physical action dramatically pumps up the blood flow into his head. At the exact same time, that deep breath he's taking pulls cooler ambient air into his body. The combo of increased blood flow and a rush of cool air effectively lowers his brain's temperature, helping him stay alert. It's pretty genius, honestly.
This need to cool down also explains a few other quirky triggers, like if our stickman hits the gym for a heavy workout, he might catch himself yawning. That's just because his brain is warming up from all that physical exertion and needs to stay active and cool. On the flip side, if he goes for a drive up a steep mountain, he might yawn for a totally different mechanical reason. That sudden change in elevation triggers an automatic yawn just to equalize the pressure in his ears.
Later in the day, our stickman has a big presentation. He's nervous, pacing around the room, and suddenly, he yawns. This is where his nervous systems are basically playing tug of war. His anxiety fires up his sympathetic nervous system, getting him hyper-alert and ready for action. But in response, his body tries to hit the brakes on that intense stress by activating the parasympathetic nervous system to relax him. The physical result of this physiological battle? A nervous yawn. Interestingly enough, some anti-anxiety meds can also cause yawning as a side effect, simply by increasing serotonin levels and slightly raising body temperature. All right, so we've covered the spontaneous internal triggers. But what happens when our stickman heads to the break room and catches a yawn from a coworker? Or, hey, what about you? Have you yawned yet just by hearing me talk about it? Contagious yawning is this fascinating phenomenon that actually starts in early childhood, and it reveals something pretty profound about human psychology. Research strongly links contagious yawning to social empathy, our ability to feel and understand someone else's experience. Because of this empathy, our stickman is highly likely to yawn when his close friends or family members do. But here's the wild part. This totally crosses species lines. Seeing his pet dog yawn, or even just observing fish, birds, or apes doing it, can trigger the exact same response in him.
From an evolutionary standpoint, this actually makes perfect sense. This empathy-driven reflex likely evolved as a primal survival mechanism. It was a way for groups of early humans and other social animals to stay alert and perfectly in sync with each other's emotional and physical states. So if one person signaled fatigue or a need for a quick alertness boost by yawning, the rest of the group automatically caught the reflex to make sure everyone stayed on the exact same wavelength.
As our stickman recovers from a particularly big, contagious yawn, he rubs his eyes. You've probably experienced this yourself and wondered why on earth yawning makes you tear up. The answer is delightfully straightforward and entirely physical. During a yawn, those intense facial stretches we talked about earlier cause your face muscles to tense up.
This tension literally physically squeezes your tear glands, pushing a little bit of water out into your eyes.
Section 2. When to see a doctor and the red flags of excessive yawning.
Stepping away from the lighter side of our stickman's day for just a second, we do need to carefully examine the medical data. While yawning is incredibly normal, if our stickman finds that he simply cannot stop yawning, it might point to a few common underlying issues. It could just be extreme fatigue from pulling a late night, or maybe a sleep disorder that's heavily disrupting his rest, things like insomnia, sleep apnea, or narcolepsy. And as we touched on earlier, it could also be a side effect from certain medications that alter his brain chemistry or temperature.
However, it is absolutely vital to note that in rare cases, uncontrollable yawning is a red flag for much more severe medical conditions. Excessive yawning can be your body's warning sign of a failing circulatory system or a severe thermoregulatory disorder. In fact, medical literature links unexplained, constant yawning to critical emergencies like a stroke, a heart attack, bleeding around the heart, or even a brain tumor. The key differentiator here is the presence of other symptoms. You should seek immediate emergency medical attention if excessive yawning is ever paired with symptoms like sudden numbness or weakness in your face or limbs, severe headaches, chest pain, dizziness, or unexplained shortness of breath. If those symptoms are present, yawning is no longer just a sign of being tired, it is an alarm bell.
But returning to our normal, perfectly healthy stickman as he wraps up his day. You might be wondering what exactly constitutes a normal amount of yawning. Well, the data shows that the average person yawns about 9 times a day. Though, depending on your environment, your empathy levels, and your physical exertion, older research actually notes that anywhere up to 20 yawns a day is completely normal.
To wrap up this explainer, let's officially bust a massive myth that you've probably heard repeated your entire life. Does a yawn mean your body is desperate for oxygen? The answer from modern science is a definitive no. Researchers now know for a fact that yawning has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of oxygen in your blood. Instead, as we've explored today, it's all about brain cooling, stretching out your lungs, and social empathy.
Which leaves us with one final, provocative thought to end on. Think back to the challenge from the very beginning of this explainer. Did you yawn while watching us unravel all of this? Because since contagious yawning reveals our inherent capacity for empathy, it kind of makes you wonder, how deeply connected are you to the people, or, hey, even the stickman, around you right now? Keep an eye out for who catches your next yawn.